Township Council to order. If you would, please join me in this Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public open discussion. Does anyone have anything they wish to discuss with council that is not on this evening's agenda? Seeing nor hearing none, do any members of council have a new agenda item to potentially add to this evening's agenda? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm requesting that we add a new business item, naming it Stony Batter Path Ahead, or Way Ahead. And this would just be for open discussion in council on perhaps entering into an agreement with the parties that are involved in Mount Nittany, similar to that of Thompson Woods, or what we would be doing at some point in time with Stony Batter.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion. Will anyone second that?
Second.
Potentially, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will insert that at NB3. Okay, very good. Continuing on, reports, managers update.
Yes, a couple of items to brief you on. I'll come back to the bigger issue or the bigger item that I want to report on. We'll be talking about the Dale Summit area plan tonight, the RFQ. Mike will be presenting on that tonight. We also have forwarded the Thompson Woods information onto the Borough of State College, so that now is in their court to review the intermunicipal cooperation agreement and to make comment. I do expect there will be a little bit of back and forth there once we get comments from the borough, but that is now in process. And just a quick update relative to the proposed Nittany Casino at the Nittany Mall. The Gaming Control Board did announce that the public comment period is going to close on June 12th of 2022. Staff also had a Zoom meeting with the Nittany traffic consultants and PennDOT representatives, and the casino is going to be required to do some additional counts to correlate with their existing trip generation report that had been submitted to the Gaming Control Board. That trip generation report was reviewed by our College Township traffic consultant, Trams, and was in agreement with the results of the recommendations of that report. However, the PennDOT liaison to the Gaming Control Board has insisted that these additional counts at the existing now open Category 4 licensed facilities be counted, and once that information is known, a final determination will be made relative to whether or not a full traffic impact study is going to be required. And Don or Mike or anyone that was in on that meeting, if I've misspoken at all, please chime in. But so point being here, it's going to take some time for them to generate those counts. Depending upon the results of those counts, there could be an additional TIS that is required, which could extend the time that's going to be necessary to complete that work and ultimately check the box for the Gaming Control Board that they have all the information they need to finally make some determination relative to a license. So I think we have some time here yet, several months before there would be any expectation that the control board would be considering a license. That was really the gist of it. The big item that I wanted to touch on has to do with Pike Street. We are under construction. We have notified everyone and their brother that we're under construction. The police have been very active and involved. We are having a great deal of difficulty with the traveling public relative to moving through that area in a safe and efficient manner. So I'm sure that a number of you have either heard or have seen certain situations occur. We're expecting that to continue. Staff is working diligently on identifying some other alternatives that we may be able to employ to ensure safety, not only of the traveling public, but also of the contractors that are doing the work. So that was everything that I had. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Questions for the manager? Paul?
Just a real quick question. That increase or the additional data on the traffic, is that to compare it to historicals at those same locations prior to the Category 4 being input, or is it current? Because I'm just curious, are they looking for the delta between what was before and what came after, or what?
I don't think they're looking for the change before and after. I think what the potential area of concern seems to be potential area of concern here seems to be signal timing and turn lane lengths. And I think they want the additional data in terms of the real open Category 4 casino counts to compare with the generated trip generation information that was provided. And if there is not a correlation, then there may need to be an additional study. I don't know, Mike, you've kind of lived in this realm for a while. Maybe you could take a swing at it.
I think the best way to describe it is that currently the traffic analysis that was done as part of the application that was submitted for the casino was based upon the trip generation associated with the ITE manual. And what that included was existing casinos, but what that didn't capture is what type of traffic generation you see at a Category 4, because it's new. There's really not a historical reference point for that. So what they've asked the consultant's traffic engineer to do is to go back, take a look at the open Category 4 casinos, see what kind of trip generation they're experiencing, and then bring that back for discussion. Truth be told, I think staff's opinion is the traffic generation that was used for the original analysis as part of the application is going to show trip generation numbers higher than what a Category 4 creates. And in that instance, you're basically, they're presenting their analysis, their original analysis on a worst case scenario. If Category 4 shows a lower trip generation and their projections are based on a higher number, then the question becomes, do you need to do an analysis because we've given you a worst case scenario than we're expected to have happen out here. That said, Adam hit the nail on the head in terms of the concerns related to this are very much signal timing and queue lengths. If there's any concern from PennDOT, when that information comes back, then I think that'll trigger the need for the analysis. It may be a full-blown TIS, it may be a little bit more of a lesser scale traffic analysis, but yet to be determined.
Sure. And the other thing, excuse me, that just begs the question too. Are we looking at averages or are we looking at peaks? Because if we know anything about football weekends and other things here, we have to engineer for the peaks, not necessarily the average.
Right.
So.
Typically in this area, they look at the average because the peaks are just that. It's, one spot in time and you plan for holistic. So we'll see. Again, they've got some legwork on their end to do to satisfy the consultants, the liaison engineer for PennDOT to the Gaming Control Board. I think we're going to have probably a couple meetings. We had this first one to talk about it. I believe we're going to have a second meeting once the traffic engineer comes back with that data to say, okay, do we need to take the next step? So to their credit, it's kind of a progressive series of steps, and it's kind of a wait and see.
Okay, that helps. Thank you very much. That's all.
Eric?
Yeah, same subject. I don't think it's going to trip I don't think we're going to have to see anything change maybe signal timing. I would assume signal timing is just part of an HOP and it doesn't go back to the land of, if something comes out of it, it doesn't come back and affect the approved land development plan. However, queue length could, if it's not just painting lines and it's actually putting it. So if that's the case, we have a approved land development plan. What does that mean? Can it be done without reopening that process, or do they have to come back with a revised final land development plan?
Well, one of the conditions of the approval was, had to do with HOP, satisfying conditions of the HOP or words to that effect. Assuming that the HOP hinges on that, you've already planned for that in your approval with that contingency.
Okay, so if the HOP dictates a revision to the land development plan, involves curbing or, then we're not necessarily revisiting the land development plan.
That would be my interpretation.
I like that interpretation. I'm hoping that's,
And I believe that I'm correct.
I,
I think.
I'm good with that. We'll leave it at that.
Anything else? Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, Carla, please.
Just a quick one, not about that. Your comments about the intergovernmental cooperation agreement, they're for Thompson Woods, not
Yeah.
at the campus
Your
area.
housekeeping, your comments for 2102 ended up under 2105.
Whoa.
Oh,
I just want to make sure I wasn't, and I think people following Thompson Woods would like to also make sure that they see what progress is being made. So just
Say that
an
again.
adjustment.
The last two comments under 2105 belong under 2102.
They're on 2102 on my paper. Are they on yours, Adam? I don't know what happened, but,
Okay.
oh, I do remember making the change, but I somehow must have,
Yeah, we'll
Yep,
get
just
that
get 'em
corrected
the right ones.
online.
It's right here.
If it's right on
Some
Jen's,
of
it's
us have
right.
it correct, obviously, some
Sorry
of us
about
do
that.
not, but we'll be
Okay.
sure that the online version is correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I did neglect, I have
Please.
one more thing, very
Please.
quickly. I don't know, do we have the video of the PennDOT work on Bullsburg Road?
just the picture.
Do we have the video?
Yeah, Mike has
You don't
it.
have the video? That'd be so
No,
great.
I mean, my-
not video, I'm sorry.
Movie.
Popcorn.
We,
Is it
just yesterday,
Thursday?
Amy Kerner, who wasn't able to be with us this evening, received a phone call from the county PennDOT maintenance crew, or group. They want to actually do some, not culvert, but pipe replacements here in this vicinity of the quarry. And those are represented by the blue dots here, the location of where they want to do the work. Because of the quarry traffic in and out, they are requesting to be able to do night work. In this case, night work, what I would be recommending to council, if council is willing to do it, would be a 3 to 11, 3 in the afternoon to 11 in the evening kind of a work schedule. It kind of gets them away more from the quarry operations that cease about 4 o'clock and gives them time to get in the evenings and complete that work. It's only anticipated to take 3 days. They would like to begin to do this beginning on June 24th, finishing up finally during the day on the 24th. But it would be weather dependent. Council doesn't have to make a determination on this tonight, but I did want to put this in front of you and make sure that it was available to anybody in the area that might be listening, to at least know that PennDOT's going to be looking to do work here, and pending council's approval, it would be work that would be conducted in some off hours.
and that perspective is driving into Lamont, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. The work is to be on the Linden Hall side of the quarry? Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Paul, go ahead.
Is it gonna be a complete road closure, or is it gonna be one lane, going in
Yeah,
both
at
directions?
the moment, I
Because,
don't have that information.
because that would, 3 o'clock is great, but still, that's people coming home from work and, kids try, anyway, if it was one lane that they could have somebody stationed at either end, doing stop, that would be
Yeah.
preferable.
That's a big factor.
Yeah.
In determining.
I mean, if it's a total road closure,
Well, they're gonna do it whether we give them permission or not. The question really is the timing.
It's the night work, right?
yeah.
Yeah, typically, these kinds of things, they are able to keep one lane open. Correct on, I mean, on these kind of pipe replacements?
Well, depending on how tight the shoulders are to the road. I think it's wide enough they'll be able to do one lane.
So, but again, no decision this evening is necessary. We have the 16th meeting coming up, but I just wanted to make everybody aware that this was something that we were just informed about, and we'll be coming back to you guys in a couple weeks. So that was it.
Great.
I'm now.
Carly, anything else beyond the housekeeping?
No, thank you.
Dustin, anything?
No question.
Okay, great. COG Regional County Liaison Reports. Carla, have you had any since our last meeting? Dustin
Nothing's
provided HR report. Any questions on Dustin's report? I think the big item on that was the COLA.
Yep, yeah, the biggest item, elected a new chair. Vice chair will be delayed until the next time we meet. And then review and approval of 3 job descriptions as listed in the report. And then 2023 COLA recommendation for the budgetary process at 5%.
Adam, you had a comment on that?
The only thing, based on the information that was provided in the report, which came from COG, it's on the back page
Yep.
of Dustin's report. The College Township COLA is reported correctly. The merit is a full 2%, the total being 4%. So I just wanted to be sure that everybody understood. The averages may be the 1.8, but the full amount that was allocated in our budget was 2% and 2%.
Thank you for that.
So
So, and that's for the information there is for the 2022 budget.
that is correct.
The decisions that Dustin and HR are pushing out will be included into the 2023 proposed budget. Any questions for Dustin?
Any questions?
No? Good? Eric?
I snuck a written report in this afternoon.
Okay.
The only thing I would have to add is just to point out that Trish Meek is leaving. Her last day is June 10th. Combined with Tom Zilla's retirement, that's a boatload of institutional knowledge leaving the area
Yeah, it's the end of an
in a
era.
short period of time.
Well, hopefully they have the same success the college had in reloading kind of thing.
There's
so.
that possibility exists right now. We'll see how that pans out with one particular candidate, so.
Sure. Okay, is that it? Paul?
None.
Great. Parks Government met 25 May, which was after our last meeting. We continue our discussions. An hour and a half goes quick. A lot of great discussions, but we actually put something on paper in that we want the authority to be the fundraising element for the Center Region Parks Program. So we actually got one, this is what we want them to do. So we're gonna work from there, and we'll keep coming back at it, and hopefully eventually we'll have something to present to General Forum to bless off on. Reminder that I need any suggestions, comments for meetings moving forward, COG meetings moving forward. We'll be discussing at our 21 June executive meeting. I'll be asking on the 16th if there's anything to throw out. It's still I think everybody's throwing out that they're afraid hybrid meetings are gonna go away or something like that. I said, we would be lynched if we tried to do that. It's a tool, it's a valuable tool to use for the public and for us. So I'm more like, some of the other topics that I've heard is printed agenda packages. Some would like to see those come back. Your participation if you are remote, and then in general, try to be in person, use the remote as a backstop, not as a primary, so. But again, we'll talk about that at the 16th, but with you having committee meetings coming up and everything, just wanted to plant that seed in your heads again. We don't have a PC rep. Anybody have anything from the PC meeting?
There
Now,
was
Lin-
no meeting
Okay,
since,
great, thanks.
And
last
Lindsay
May.
is attending the CRPA meeting this evening
Great,
on our behalf.
great. Diversity, equity, and inclusion reports. Anybody have anything here? Again, we invite the public to participate if they have anything to offer
Actually,
towards that.
Well,
Just-
yeah, just a couple. Go ahead.
No, please, go ahead, Dustin.
Dustin, go
Well,
ahead.
yeah, June is Pride Month, right? And then I know we do have another meeting before this, but Juneteenth is on the 19th of June as well. So just two things happening this month.
Right, and I think there's some celebrations being,
The festival is the weekend of the 11th, and that's the date of the parade for the Pride Parade as well. So, yeah, thank you.
good,
That was it.
good.
There's a hand raised.
Oh, okay, great. I can't,
Douglas Miller?
Douglas Miller. Mr. Miller, go, did you have a comment?
He's got to unmute. Oh, there.
Yeah, sorry about
There
that.
you are.
I apologize, I came apparently 3 minutes later than I was supposed to for public open discussion, but I was wondering if you guys were able to hear any open discussion yet.
Yeah, we are. What would you like? Again, public open discussion, that would be for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is that,
Yeah,
okay, very good,
yeah,
please.
exactly.
Please.
Yeah, 2 items are really kind of where I'm at with concern or questions or kind of just bothered in general with the Aspen Height construction. I'm at 1326 East College, which is right next to Squirrel Drive on the other side of the Choice and Smoker Square. Dust is an extreme issue as far as I'm concerned. They're not doing anything properly, as far as I'm concerned, to properly wet the areas to minimize the amount of dust that comes down onto the property, onto the cars. I know technically, even in talking with the ownership of the Cove Pizzeria, their windows, they can wash the tables. It's completely worthless to basically sit outside to try to eat there. And of course, as far as I'm concerned, my cars are completely covered in dust and beyond what I think is acceptable. The second part about that, even with the current situation with the dust, would be back to when they were blasting. I realize they're done blasting at this point, at least I hope they are. But, I mean, in review of what I can see with state codes, I should have been able to hear an audible sound that they were going to be blasting within a half mile of the blast zone. I had to go out and basically threaten to throw their seismographs into the dumpster to the point where the representative then was at least calling me or calling my fiance to at least notify us so our dogs could not be completely going off. So I'm rather concerned with construction. I'm not certain what happened with the patchwork yesterday on Squirrel Drive. I don't know if they just completely squashed the idea of doing most of that, even though they had it reduced to 1 lane. Because I just came down Squirrel Drive this evening. If you were doing patchwork, I would have thought they would at least build in the major rut towards the bottom of the hill. That is, I mean, I went all the way to the left-hand side. If somebody was coming up the hill, they would have been yelling at me for going into the wrong lane, travel to avoid basically nothing more than a huge pothole that's present there. That's where I'm at as far as Aspen Heights construction. Second part, in going through the most recent couple notices, I know that you spoke with the staff at the Cove and Smoker Square regarding the regrading of the slope of Squirrel Drive. I am adamantly against the aspect of closing off Squirrel Drive to go up or down at that point. I have to deal with enough traffic of people that don't realize that my driveway is not the access into Smoker Square. I just see this as just going to be nothing more than people are going to come up partway up the driveway, either make a K-turn and tear up the lawn, or they're gonna get caught on the embankment trying to get into or out of Smoker Square, trying to use it from the gravel driveway. And also tear up the driveway. So something, as far as I'm concerned, needs to be done to come up with a better plan than just completely shutting down Squirrel Drive access. If there's any additional feedback. I know that it said that I was going to be delayed, it sounded like, for several months, but I wasn't really certain where that was because I didn't see it in the last agenda and I didn't see it in this evening as well. So I wasn't certain where that timeline is at this point either. But those are just concerns that I'm having with, I guess, Hog Baker in the construction aspect. I debated on even calling over to Hog Baker directly and complaining of the situation, but I figured I'd bring it up first to the council with regard to where it's at.
Thanks. Let's go for Aspen Heights, the dust. Whose purview does that fall under?
Dawn?
Well, our inspector, we'll have them talk to Hall Baker about it and see what can be done. As far as the patch on the road, I know they were patching the 2 sewer lateral connections that they had to make. There will be some other patches need to be done. There was one really bad area on the opposite side of the road, the eastern side of the road, that did get repaired here last week, I think it was. So we'll keep an eye on that. As far as the closure of Squirrel Drive, what we decided to do was, rather than allow them to close it here a couple weeks ago when they're going to start the work, is we said what we'll do is when development on the other side of the road would take place, at that time widening of Squirrel Drive would also be required. So we'd be able to construct a widening lane, basically creating 3 lanes at the bottom. And by doing that, then doing the work that we already have planned, we'd always be able to keep 1 lane open. So the total closure, and I'm not going to say it won't happen, but this was meant to eliminate the need for a 2-week closure. And that's why we decided to wait until the widening of Squirrel Drive was absolutely required, and then that way we can get around a lot of that. But I am sure there will be some very short-term, at least 1 lane closures throughout the construction yet. But yeah, we'll take a look and see what can be done with the dust issue. If the dust issue becomes large enough, we can notify DEP. I know on other job sites they've been out and they can fugitive dust is, I believe, the term they use for it, and they can get on contractors to stop the fugitive dust from coming over to your property. But in the meantime, we'll talk with them and say you're not doing a good enough job.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Carly, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just to follow up on the dust, this is at least the second complaint, at least, that we've heard about dust. The other one that I'm thinking of was weeks ago, like,
When they were
Months.
crushing the road.
Yeah, I went around and I spoke with all of the neighbors along, oh, forgive me, not Shamrock, thank you, Oak Ridge. It's been a long day. I live there and
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I know
you
that
live there?
neighborhood, so like the back of my hand. Anyway, the neighbors along Oak Ridge, and it was really bad a couple of months ago while they were actively crushing. My question was, is it still bad, or is this something that abated 6 to 8 weeks ago? Mr. Miller, I don't know, that was a question for you. I don't know if you can hear me.
As far as, I mean, I know when they were talking Oak Ridge, they were having major issues up above.
Yeah.
I know we had issues down here. I kind of went with the aspect of, at least I'm seeing the trucks parked and things are going. At the point that I went to go to leave them, and they actively are needing to get the sweepers out to because of how much dirt and everything they're dragging in and out.
Okay.
Was certainly concerning. But I mean, it's one of those cases. Luckily we had rain last night and today the dust was minimized naturally.
Okay.
by it. I mean, with the amount of trucks that they're hauling in and out, I recognize the damage that's gonna happen to Squirrel. I mean, Pennsylvania Avenue, I can tell you, is equally getting destroyed by the trucks. It needs to be, edge work's gonna need to be done to patch along Pennsylvania Avenue heading towards the, Hill Drive.
Yes.
I think. And so, because I mean, basically, I leave my property and I go up the hill with the dogs to take them for a walk. Once they get the development and have a sidewalk, it'll be a lot nicer as far as taking them up and down for access. But I mean, it's one of those. I realize the development and what comes with that, but I mean, I also recognize the dust buildup on the vehicles and things like that, or on neighboring properties as far as like with the restaurant, because I'm friends with the ownership there to know that, so.
And I can go back.
It's still
around.
definitely showing up on the property.
Okay,
Okay.
the-
You know,
yeah, the
it's-
dust problem is
Well,
continuing.
and that's
so-
my question. The reason I'm bringing that up is because if we've already been around, around that bend with them about the dust and yet it's still an issue, I just want to make sure we're not just going to talking about it until construction's done.
You want an active comment that
Yeah,
we'll take the next
I
step.
haven't heard anything lately, so,
Yeah, when
we'll take a look into it. It's, we were fortunate that it rained every other day here for quite a while, and you didn't have dust problems, but here the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of really
Yeah, it was
dry
dry.
weeks, and, you're on a hill, the wind's blowing, so.
Yeah, they have to take more active measures.
Right.
Yep.
Clean gravity definitely works to bring it downhill, so.
Absolutely. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Appreciate you sharing those. Please keep us informed if you don't see improvement.
No, thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Good job.
Okay, we did diversity, equity, and inclusion. Consent agenda. Consent agenda for June 2nd consists of the approval of the minutes from our May 19th, 2022 meeting. We have correspondence consisting of a letter from Pantera Engineering dated May 18th, 2022 regarding time extension request for Stalker Chevrolet to September 13, 2022. We have an email from Eric McGinnis dated May 19th, 2022 regarding concerns about Pike traffic flow. We have an email from Vaughn Shirk dated May 18th, 2022 regarding a request for watch for children signs. We have a letter from Pantera Engineering dated May 26, 2022 regarding time extension request for Nittany Casino to September 12, 2022. We have a letter from Pantera Engineering dated May 26, 2022 regarding time extension request for Evergreen Heights to September 13th, 2022. We have a letter from Mr. Bill Sharp dated May 27th, 2022 regarding resignation from the College Township Industrial Development Authority Board. And finally, a letter from Community Diversity Group dated May 26, 2022 regarding appreciation for donation. Does council wish any of those items pulled?
CA2C, please?
CA2C, yes.
CA2B.
CA2B,
G.
G? Come on, Paul, everybody.
No, I'm good, thank you. They got mine.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda less CA2B, C, and G.
I so move.
We've got a motion,
Second.
we have choice of seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. CA2B,
Yeah, I just wanted to pull it just for an update and what is going on, what has been done and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do my
I
presentation?
think you should do your presentation, Don. I think that would actually.
Okay, just in
answer
case
lot-
this
Is there
came
a
up.
movie?
Actually,
Yes.
there is.
I don't think we loaded.
Embedded video.
Oh, it's in the show.
There's been a lot of complaints, you don't have any signage out. I didn't know that I couldn't get through there. So what I did was a walk down College Avenue. Most of the traffic that is turning left into, turning onto Pike Street from College Avenue, is coming from the mall into town. I sat at the old sheets and watched. There's maybe one car every 15, 20 minutes comes from the other end, like they've come off the bypass, perhaps. But the vast majority is coming from that direction. And so what I'm going to do is just a little tour here of all the signage that is in place. As you're going down, unfortunately I was far away on this one. That says Pike Street closed 2,000 feet.
Wait, Don, you walked this?
I saw him walking.
Yeah,
I bet you wish there were sidewalks, yeah.
yeah.
Did you pick up litter while
You
you
know,
were
that's a
there?
good idea. If there would have been sidewalk, there's actually some areas where the shoulder's very narrow. I ran those. I waited till there was no cars coming and then I ran. Okay, so this one says, road closed, Pike Street detour, something, 2,000 feet ahead. Then the next one, 1,500 feet ahead, another sign. Next one, we added this year, we did not have in phase one a variable message board at College Avenue. We just had the one as you turn onto Pike Street. But this one says, and it's not, when you take a photo of a sign like this, it doesn't pick up all the stuff that's lit up because it's flashing very quickly. So it looks like it just says Pike Street access to
I
Lamont.
was gonna say.
It actually says Pike Street, no access to Lamont.
No, it says Pike Street and the closed flashes.
Oh, it's closed, yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Access to Lamont.
Access to Lamont. And then the second part of that sign, and if you're driving 45, you get to see both. Next one, Mike.
Yep, I see it every day.
And South Atherton, follow detour. So this is letting people know there is a detour if you want to get to Lamont or South Atherton. And 90% of this traffic's cut through. There's very little of it that's the destination is Lamont. The destination is South Atherton and points beyond. So next, Mike. Okay, now this is 1,000 feet away. It's actually uphill a little bit from that sign. I got these out of order a little bit. Pike Street detour. You can see that straight ahead. Next one, Mike. At 500 feet, there's another one. Next one. And within the 100 feet of the intersection, there's this last one that's for that direction. So there's 5 signs and a flashing variable message board, all telling you if you want to go to Pike Street, you got to follow the detour. Now, if you get down to the intersection, the variable message board it looks like it's blank, but it's another one of those. It's lit up. It says access closed past Grove Circle. And then there's also there the road closed 1/2 mile ahead, detour sign there. So you have all these signs ahead of the curve there. Next one, Mike. Now here we are right at Grove Circle, and this is where the road is officially closed in this direction. And you can see there's 2 do not enter, 2 road closed, and then there's some kind of vehicle parked there. When this picture was taken, there was an officer there. Our zoning officer and zoning enforcement officer were actually there a little bit earlier talking to the police officer. And as they sat there, 3 of them out in the road with all these signs, 2 cars tried to go through. And needless to say, the police officer stopped them from proceeding on through. Did not ticket them, allowed them to back up and turn around. But that is the
Dilemma.
the dilemma is well signed. If you want to go to the next one, this is sort of a different issue here. One of the issues a couple of the businesses along Mont had was that there's no sign that says the road is open to the shops. So I added that just today, road open to shops.
Oh, I thought the shopkeepers did that on their own.
No, we're going to get a professional sign made for that, but that should do in the week or so it's gonna take us to get a sign in there. But it alerts people that, yeah, you can drive into the village. Now, one thing I did look at today, and I didn't take a picture of it unfortunately, but you know, as you're driving down College Avenue, it becomes 3 lanes wide as you get down to Pike Street, with the left lane becoming a left turn only lane. And then you have 2 straight lanes. And I think the vast majority of the people who are going the wrong way, we'll say, is people who get into that left turn lane and then they're trapped. Because you get into that left turn lane, you see those other signs that are right there, right in front of you. At that point, you say, oh, I gotta go straight, I gotta follow the detour. Well, you're not gonna just pull into the next lane over unless you want to get clobbered. So what I am gonna do is, in that median strip that separates the eastbound and leftbound, that median strip's only 3 foot wide, but there are 2 signposts that have the left lane must turn left with a left arrow on them. Below that, I am going to make an 18 by 24 sign. It will be orange for a construction phase sign, and it's going to say, to access village, go straight. I don't have the language down dead on yet.
Just no access.
No access to village.
Like, just keep it simple.
Okay.
I think other things, some things that I think of when I think, okay, don't go, wrong way, is a big one, wrong way. Because even when I hate to say it, but even when I looked at that road closed, do not enter, I hate to say it, but it's still sort of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't enter this lane, but that's the way. Like this, I hate to say, I'm sorry,
well, no,
I know that's silly, but.
I think there's people who think that way, and actually Mark came up with an idea this afternoon. Right there at those road closed, do not enter signs, we're gonna have 2 big arrows painted. So as you're standing, as you're driving up, you're gonna see arrows pointing towards you.
Wrong way, yeah.
Yeah, so wrong way, do not enter, arrows pointing at me.
And the other one I
can't go
think
that
of
way.
is no outlet. Like, I wonder if at that one you're talking about,
Maybe that's
like,
just no outlet,
no outlet.
no
there's-
access.
Yeah, no like, no.
But by putting the signs,
Uh-uh.
but by putting the signs in the median,
That's a
I
good
think
idea.
some people who are looking left the whole time, they're thinking, I wanna go left. They're not looking at these signs to the right. They're gonna say, oh, I don't wanna turn left.
It's a good idea.
And so I think, some people are more
I'm one of
negative
those
than I,
sign
but
dancers.
Don't worry about that.
I said that to Adam today. We were arguing as to how effective 2 more signs would be. And I said, well, if someone was standing in that median strip with a sign saying, do not go this way, that would work. Now,
My
Adam,
14-year-old has
Adam
a job
sort of
this summer.
thought that might not do anything else either. We can hire someone to risk their life by standing in that median strip waving a sign. I think that would eliminate 95%.
Of the sign waivers, yes.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we're gonna add those 2 signs. I'm gonna get them ordered tomorrow. I think it's gonna take about a week for them to come in.
Now, specific to the leather though, for Walnut Grove, what have we done there? You know, just-
Once you get down to Walnut Grove and you realize, okay, I can't go straight, you then turn into Walnut Grove. We have 2 signs there. They're that orange, they're just like those ones
I
there.
tested it today.
Yeah, okay, but I think we're gonna get the high-intensity, actual traffic signs for that, but the 2 signs say,
Yeah.
turn around at cul-de-sac, do not turn around in driveways and in road. Be safe, something along those
Yeah.
lines. And for the most part,
Hey, dummy. I think you should just leave it that.
yeah, well,
Talking to me, this one.
There wasn't anybody else going up through there when I went through. So,
last year, the first day was absolute insanity, as far as the amount of traffic. This year, now that everybody sort of knows what's going on, it was absolute insanity. But last year, within a couple of weeks, you saw a huge drop off. I was out last Wednesday, not 2 days ago, or yesterday, but the week before Wednesday, and we were still getting about 35, 40 an hour. And you would think that after 2 weeks, people, is it truly all new people trying it every day, or is it somebody who forgot that the day before they had to turn around there? It is dropping off some. As that one letter from Mary McGinnis pointed out, it was over 100 an hour at the beginning, and I'm seeing 45 when I was there during the day, not maybe during peak hour, but during what I would consider average hours.
Mr. McGinnis pointed out too, I just wanted, if you were gonna review, coming the other way down College Ave.
Yeah, that was my point earlier when I said, when I was sitting there in the abandoned Sheets parking lot, I only saw 1 or 2 cars coming from the other direction. I think if you get off the bypass and you're coming if you're coming into from Patton Township, you're gonna just go on to Elmwood. I think that's gonna, naturally, you're gonna go that way. Now, coming from Bollesburg, it may be more of a toss-up, but I think 95% of the traffic we're seeing is cut-through traffic. And if I'm coming out on either one of those, I'm not gonna cut through by driving all the way down to Pike Street if I wanna go to Atherton.
My observation driving that Elmwood section, Branch Road section quite a bit is that the detour is very effective. You have relatively few cars that are actually, unless they are truly local traffic, making their way down the open side of Pike Street. The vast majority of cars, many more so than is typical, are making that left-hand turn from Branch onto Elmwood, and they're actually following the detour. So I think Dawn's observations are accurate just based on my observations of how the traffic from Branch is performing in that area. Consequently, the traffic that's coming off of Bollesburg Road, today was the first time I saw anybody make a left onto Pike Street coming in that direction. Most traffic is coming straight through onto Elmwood.
The amount of traffic that is actually using Pike Street now is way down. And the fear would be is if everyone who really wanted to get up to the other end of Pike Street started to use Pike Street, the parking that we still have in place, there's a lot of parking that can still go on that lane, but if you started talking about 3,000 cars a day going through there, it would be bad. And traffic has to understand that if you go straight through, there will be delays. So if you turn onto Elmwood and hop onto College Avenue, even though it's an extra mile, I think, you're gonna get there much quicker. And that's what we really hope people understand, because if we start getting more through traffic, then we may be getting into an issue where we gotta relook at our traffic control.
Sign twirler.
I really think
Humor.
if we had somebody at
What
the
are you,
end
an
of that
Ohio
median
State grad?
strip, 90% of your traffic that's going down and turning
Do
around
it.
at Grove Circle would be gone. Anything else?
Insults are on the short list.
So, moral of the story, we're trying to overcome the populace, but we'll have to keep monitoring, we'll keep doing the best that we can.
And the police are out there very often, and they are ticketing.
Anything else, Dustin, on that?
No, I'd just add this, being someone who has to go through the local traffic only every day to get to Mount Nittany Road. Just as a consideration, I understand why the alley that is on Mary, I think it's Mary Street, is one way. I get that for this whole aspect of it. But if we have to close that is the only other way to get through. Just to remember that,
Yeah.
that alley is the only other way that I
And
can
it
get
has
to my
seen a
house.
huge increase in traffic, by the
Yeah.
way. We've been monitoring it. We did pre-construction and post, and it's getting a lot more traffic.
Yeah.
And it did last year, but it for the most part, it worked. Police are up there too, because there are cars going the wrong way.
Yeah, and I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it.
Eric, did you have comments on this?
Yeah, I know that Dawn's monitoring it, because twice I've followed him through Berry Alley, and I'm happy to
wrong way?
report that the College Township car is going about 12 miles an hour down Berry Alley.
Oh, you
I
can
saw
be
him
sure
the
I'm
other
going
day,
under
too.
15.
'Cause it's
Yeah, I
pretty-
saw him walking down the sidewalk the other day.
As soon as you hit the one-way section, you can see the traffic speed thing picks you up. Because I've been the only car on there, and it picks me up right away as soon as I get on there, so. Yeah, I live there too, so I'm up and down College Avenue, and I'm through here every day. Plenty of signage coming from the mall. I mean, if people are texting, they're not paying attention, I mean, you can't, you know, what are you gonna do? You're right, those folks are right about this. Before you put up that sign and you come from Branch Road, there's no way to know really that you can continue on the opposite direction unless there's somebody ahead of you does that.
Yeah.
So I mean, open to shops or open to Dale Street probably would help. Having said that though, I gotta go back to the suggestion that Mr. McGinnis made. I assume opening it in that direction to Dale Street is not possible, because there you take care of the entire problem. People can continue to text and not pay attention and all that, at least the people bound for Lamont are not gonna be affected.
Yeah.
The cut-through traffic's still gonna be affected.
It would be, that would get bad, with the amount of cut-through traffic you would end up putting on all those little roads.
Okay, so you
That's-
think the cut-through traffic would still navigate up and end up on Berry Alley?
Yeah, because they could go up on Mary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
I
would
just,
be wandering
that would be the
around.
response to his suggestion, is that that would open up the door to,
Cut through.
you know, a bottleneck and a problem somewhere, probably Berry Alley.
You're pushing the problem to.
So that's the main
worse
reason
situation.
why it is closed out to Dale Street.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be working there, probably by next week, the main inlet box that gets put in from across the street, and then there's a lot of work right at Dale Street. And I think my response to him was, well, we could open it, but we have to close it, then we'd open it and close it, and then that would really create.
Well, I think
The point for the cut-through traffic is, I think, everything, really, honestly.
he's looking at it and not seeing Jersey barriers there.
Yeah.
And thinking, you know, like here, you wouldn't suggest that because those Jersey barriers are gonna be there for 5 months.
Yeah,
But there, it's just cones. So I think that needs to be the response, is that we've already dealt with the Berry Alley issue last summer, and this would just make that much worse. Well, it would make it untenable, I think.
the traffic through the village, through all those streets that are barely 2-lane would be insane,
They're not too late.
barely.
Okay, continuing on,
Okay.
CA2C, Carla?
Yeah, so this is a resident talking about the intersection of Gerald and Buchenhorst, and asking for a sign. I'm just curious, do we do police monitoring at that intersection?
There has been in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know how consistently that is done.
Okay.
They will do it if we make a particular request, but they do that on their own volition as well from time to time.
Yeah.
I know that they fielded some calls from the daycare on occasion, et cetera, in that general vicinity. So they have been active in the past. I'm currently not aware of what level of attention they're giving that.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like it's something that maybe needs to be, paid attention to at some interval. Mark's got a comment.
I can reach out to the traffic unit and have them pull a patrol complaint card. Any car assigned to College Township gets a stack of cards when they go out with places they would like to see when they have some downtime to see police.
Yeah.
And I believe this council, in the last year or so, did some sort of resolution or something to officially make that an official stop sign. The police couldn't enforce it because we did not have that on our,
Yeah, you did not
Yeah.
have an engineering study to say it was justified.
yes, so
That's
it is now a 100% enforceable three-way stop. And I do see police there occasionally watching that, and that's one of those things that, you know, is a regular for some of the officers, but I can request that be placed on the list. Probably during the Pike Street construction, the bulk of their spare time will be spent in the Pike Street area.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I used to live in that neighborhood, and I know that that's a rolling stop for a lot of people. So straight ahead at the end of your workday, you're just on your way through. So,
We do, and we have placed watch children signs before, and we can certainly do that.
Well, I was gonna suggest that with the daycare there, I think,
I'm surprised there isn't.
Isn't already?
I feel like there is.
I think I want to check. Dawn and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about
okay.
this specifically. but-
So could we ask staff to pick that up and if appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and if there is something by the daycare, then also maybe just giving that warning closer up that, hey, this is a
Exactly.
neighborhood, there are children around.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think we definitely need the enforcement, both twofold. right?
Yes.
Because, I mean, if I'm ignoring a stop
First of all,
sign,
Yes.
I'm not.
Yeah.
You're not
First
paying
of all,
attention to
the
watch
enforcement.
children sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Signs everywhere there's signs.
Yeah, I'm not a big sign person, but sometimes they're helpful.
Christian, did you have a comment on that item?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Christian Wakamia. I live off of Trout Road in Shiloh, over Green Independence Place. I go through that. I actually didn't even expect, I didn't know this was going to be even on the consent agenda. Nonetheless, I, ride my bicycle with my children through that intersection regularly, and while I commend you to put up a sign or et cetera, but I hope that the township begins to think deeper about traffic control issues. Once you start relying on enforcement or signs, I feel as though you've already lost the battle. I hope that the township will consider more infrastructure to calm traffic, bulbs in intersections, or other traffic measures that make it physically impossible to break the rules, right? So once you start relying on the police, which I've never seen at that intersection in the 7 years I've been here. Once you start relying on enforcement like that, I feel as though you've already lost the battle. I think driver and human behavior is such that, if it's physically possible to do something, they will do it. So I guess my suggestion is that the township think longer and have a more longer vision of incorporating more, infrastructure to stop illegal behavior like that, rather than relying on signs or enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on CAA 2C?
I mean, in response to his comment, is there any history on us doing any traffic studies in the area?
Well, we did the engineering study that was referred to earlier relative to the stop at Gerald and Buchenhorst.
We probably have traffic counts, but we've not done anything beyond, the stop signs that were there, somebody just put them up one day, we don't know who. And so they were unenforceable, so it's been about 2 years ago. I went out and you have to look at sight distance and a couple other issues to say that is that sign truly warranted? Because if a stop sign is not warranted and you put one up and someone's sitting there and they get rear-ended, you're in trouble. So we got that part done, and I think we were thinking that would be you don't use stop signs as traffic calming, but when their stop signs are warranted, they do sort of function as a traffic calming device, and it was actually 2 intersections that we did the stop signs at, the one Buchenhorst and Gerald, and Buchenhorst and Gerald. It was the upper and the lower
and
one.
lower.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's something we can put on our list.
Well, I mean, I think that the things that Mr. Kirpio Wakamiya is talking about are more LTAC.
Yeah, that's what I was
Type
thinking.
of-
Should we be asking the LTAC to keep an eye
Well,
on
I mean, that's not really the LTAC's
Yeah.
process. the community would band together and basically petition council to remand it to LTAC. And if Christian would like to look at that process, that's, you know, he can come to the township building and yeah, learn about it.
We painted those lines
Yeah.
in the road, at the same time we did Oak Ridge, and by the book, that's traffic calming. I don't know how much effect it has, but it was one of the reasons we put the lines, the white lines on the road, because by the book, that's traffic calming, low-hanging fruit, traffic calming
Lane
strategy.
narrowing, yeah.
Yeah, same time we did Oak Ridge.
No, it was a little earlier and it worked
Yeah.
well, as far as I recall. And then we tried, and then we were like, yeah, that worked there, let's do Oak Ridge, and it didn't work as well on Oak Ridge. That's how I recall it, but.
CA2G, Eric, right?
Yeah, according to the conference website, this is their first in-person conference, but I attended if it wasn't the first one, I attended a very similar conference pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Was it different than this? Okay, so the website's inaccurate then, unless it meant it's our first in-person in a couple of years.
Since the pandemic, right?
Okay, so if that's the same conference, I noticed that our sponsorship comes with one registration.
That's correct.
Is it possible, could we swing a couple if we had more than one person interested in going?
Sure, I mean, I can speak to Mr. Kassab about that, but we can also sponsor.
It's only $95.
We can also provide funding
Okay.
for those that are interested to attend.
We have another meeting before then, but the deadline for registration may be before our next meeting. Because conference is the 21st. I'm interested in going if it's the same conference, because I was quite pleased to the content that was provided at the first one. I thought there was much more value there than I anticipated, and maybe I shouldn't have. But so if it's the same format, same content, I think it's a day if you can, it's a day well worth it.
So I would encourage members of council that have an interest, and staff that have an interest in attending, to make sure that you let Jen know that, or me, and we can get you signed up, and we can take care of the registration.
Thanks. That's it.
Great. Okay, if nothing else, I'll accept the motion to approve CA2B, C, and G.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I had a staff, on Mr. Sharp's resignation, we initiated our standard protocol of asking the existing ABCs,
Yeah,
and then we'll open up to, do we have any applications in the queue
I
currently?
think we filled them all with.
yeah, not at this time. All the ones that we had been holding have all now been appointed, so we don't have any standbys.
Okay,
So, and we'll get started with that process tomorrow.
okay, very good. Continuing on, old business, OB1, request for qualifications, form-based codes, Mr. Bloom.
Sure. So this will be the second time you discussed this. Before I start, I wanted to thank Lindsay for shouldering the load last time. She did the heavy lift, I get to do the cleanup. And I did want to thank also both Planning Commission and Council. There was a lot of thoughtful comment that went into the development of this second version of the RFQ. So I just wanted to openly thank everybody for the work that you put into it. I don't have an official presentation for this. I just thought about it, and the easiest way I can think to walk through it is just to walk through it. So it's a little bit of a deliberate process, and really what I'm looking for is, did I hit the intent by the revisions that I made to the document? So with that, as the memo references, the first revision was in section 2, and I believe this came from a comment, actually, Carla, you had made at the last meeting about adding a little bit more content to this section. While it's a short sentence, essentially, I think it captures an awful lot of information. So I just wanted to to pause and see, did I hit the mark, or is there more needed here? I just wanted to see, in terms of intent, how I did with this.
Any concerns, speak up.
Yeah, I thought this was in response to my comment on the multimodal.
It probably
like a
was a couple.
combination.
It hits that too.
Sorry,
so.
I probably merged a couple with it.
Well, it was putting some of that stuff instead of in the specifics
Right.
of it, putting it back more forward in the background stuff, yeah.
Are we comfortable with the
Yeah.
results?
We're good?
Great,
I'll keep
very
rolling.
good, keep going.
All right, next section, in section 3, again, this is a quick reference, and honestly, I may change this before we advertise. I wanted to make sure that anyone interested in this had access to those studies that we reference in this section, specifically the 2004 Economic Impact Study, the 2018 Forward Planning Study, as well as our draft Dale Summit Area Plan. We have 2 different ways we can do this. We can put them out on the website, and they can access them directly through the Planning and Zoning website, or they can also, we were tinkering with the website earlier this week, where we do our RFQ post. I think we've got the capacity to put them there as well. So I may put them in both spots, but I just wanted to call out this reference, which was new from what you had seen
So
previously.
neither one of those are currently accessible on the website.
I believe the forward study is up there, but the economic impact study and the draft Dale Summit Area Plan are not at this point.
Okay,
Keep rolling. Section 4, qualifications. This one I know, Dustin, was a comment that you had raised about we needed to strengthen section under F, and I took that to heart, and I agree with you completely. What was there before is what you see that's not highlighted. Everything that's highlighted has been added, and I think that encapsulates pretty well what we're looking for.
Yeah, thanks.
okay,
This next section, line 170, it's new J, other desired skills and experiences. This is trying to capture some of the feedback that we got from Planning Commission. And while it's not required, it makes a reference to desired skills and experiences, particularly related to legal research, demographic evaluations and projections, and those environmentally challenging locations that you had talked about at a little bit of length here at council. So I just wanted to make sure that I hit the intent with this addition.
any concerns? Driving on?
Hearing none, I'll keep rolling. All right, moving into section 5. This is the one where you saw the biggest change. And Eric, I appreciate your comments because you were spot on with, we blurred the lines in terms of what this RFQ was really intended to do. We were straddling between an RFQ and an RFP in terms of what we were asking of the consultant. And while I still think there's merit to that, I agree that we overstretched. So what I did here was recraft this section to rename it Scope of Work Outline. And particularly what we're looking for is not a full-blown scope of work. It's basically the skeleton of what the consultants would propose as their process. And in doing that, I kind of added some further explanation in the paragraphs. Did reference the one particular item that we want to have them work on. Kind of talked about how there's some expectations that, Form-Based Code Institute provided a sample scope of work. And I included that, I left it there, but it is just as a reference for them as they're considering response to this. It's no longer a requirement, it's just a reference of, this is a sample scope of work outline, and actually I'm missing the word outline down there. This is a sample scope of work outline that they can consider as they're crafting their own.
Yes, Eric, please.
Yes, I was pretty grumpy when we got to this part of the last meeting, so I appreciate you humoring me. And I got to tell you, Mike, I'm coming right back at you with the thank you to you and Lindsay, because you nailed it here. By adding those 2 paragraphs, when I read this, I was so happy when you added those 2 paragraphs, but then you found a way to leave in the template. So we kind of got the best of both. We're back to an RFQ, but we've left in
some
that.
RFP structure.
So I think you brilliantly found a way to walk that fine line while getting the benefit of what's already out there available, to folks, so.
Yeah, I think the intent here was to reference, look, we know what we're talking about to an extent, and we expect you to respond in kind, and tell us why this scope of work outline works. And that's gonna help us really, split hairs when it comes to evaluating. the
Or be
plans.
different.
Or
Or be
modify
different.
it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and that's where we reference in there that, while this is an outline or a sample that's there, if you have something based on your, experience and expertise, show us the better mousetrap.
So you're suggesting under line 235 that the word outline.
Yeah, and I noticed that even when I was just sitting here, that it just needs to, the language just needs to be consistent throughout, that we're referencing an outline, not a full.
Sample scope of work outline,
Right.
just adding the word.
Yeah, I'm
outline.
just gonna add outline
Yep.
after scope of work there.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, great job by you and Lindsay there.
Anything else on that section?
No, I do like that you use both potential and may in the same sentence. Be creative, because that's what we want, is we want them to come back with something creative and based on experience, and I think this does that, so.
Rigidly flexible, yes, there we go.
All right, great, I appreciate that. Next section, again, this is just some additions, starting at line 390, when you get there. This came out of, actually, a recommendation out of Planning Commission to include the project team organizational chart. Thought that was a good comment, and included that in what we are, expecting in terms of their response. And this is just, again, trying to get to the point of, okay, you can give us all the fancy glitzy resumes, but tell us who's actually doing the work.
Could I make a suggestion on 392? Replace the word may with must.
Okay.
Particularly when it gets to how those hours are anticipated to be assigned by team members.
Okay.
We had this discussion last meeting.
Absolutely.
If 90% of the work's going to be done by their intern, I want to know that.
Yep. Okay, yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, anything else, 390 through 393? Okay,
All right. Under references, this is to try to capture that note about, I think it was referenced as background checks the last time, and that wasn't really the intent. It was more of we just note that to the consultants that we're going to do an extensive evaluation of their past experience, and this includes reference checks. And just that lead-in sentence, I think, captures what the intent of that original comment was.
Yep.
everybody good? Okay.
All right, keep rolling on. Under 9 for sample contract, this again was a comment that came out of Planning Commission about capturing language pertaining to approval of scope changes. As part of the sample contract, we would expect something to be in there that references what they would anticipate a process for scope changes looking like.
Okay.
And this note at 425 is all Eric. And it's, and I heard it loud and clear, is that failure to include any of these could ultimately result in your disqualification.
Will.
Yeah.
Will.
I like the may.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think, and to that
Slippery
point.
slope.
Yeah, to that point, my only concern with saying will is if we get a pretty shallow pool.
Yes.
We don't want to disqualify qualified candidates because of a mix-up. We
Okay,
can always go back
what
to it.
happens, bear with me.
Sure.
What happens with the candidate who did provide everything?
I think they would ultimately score higher.
Okay.
I know.
I've been
I know
down
your
this, I've
concern.
been down
Yep.
this road, I'm sorry. so
Oh,
I'm just-
and I've seen, RFPs in my past experience get thrown out for typos for the
Yes.
same reason. It's, when you have a big pool
Yeah, I
like that.
wasn't, I don't know that I was.
No.
But
I
I'll
know.
go with, it's fine.
And that's what the may allows, I think. the
I
may.
agree, yeah.
Leaves the door open.
Yep.
And
As long as you're fair and consistent, you're gonna land on top.
Okay.
All right. So then we
I
skip
got
the.
my must in the other section, so I'm good.
Yeah.
We'll
Well, I
skip-
think must
count
in
that
this
as a
one
win.
ties us to potentially somebody who included everything, but we don't like it.
yeah, it's not creative. It's
No, it just talks about, that you don't have to choose somebody. So I should maybe have made my point a little clearer. If you have three candidates, one doesn't include something, yet you end up interviewing those, accepting those three, and the one that didn't include it gets the job, you have grounds for protest from the other two candidates, legitimate grounds for protest, I think. But if you say may, I've never put may in, maybe that gives you the out to say, okay, I didn't. They didn't, but we chose to keep them anyways.
That was why I liked the May.
So different rules, operated under different rules that were a little bit stricter, and there was a lot higher dollar value at stake. So maybe it's not, this is not necessary.
Well, at this point, we don't know the dollar value. I mean, we have some wags at that. I think that there will be some sticker shock associated with what this is all about when we get to that point. So I think.
I'm good with May, so.
Okay, 557?
I did not have any comments that I felt merited any revisions on the other two sections, so we skipped to section 9 here, line 557. This is just some reworking of the intro, and then an addition of may, it's 572. That was before shall, or will, I think was the wording. And I did hear the discussion in regards to the point value, and from your previous version, you'll see this reworked to a 20-20, 25-25-10 organization, and I'll explain my reasoning a little bit. The first two go kind of hand in glove, in my opinion. So right there, you're looking at a 40-point scale related to expertise and experience. The next two are, while interrelated, are kind of separate and distinct to some extent. So I kind of count them as individual categories, and I weighted them both at 25. And then the last one, the discussion, I think, from last meeting said stick at 10, and that's just been a standard that I've seen as I've done these in the past. So I just wanted to get your reaction to the changes here in section 9.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I recall not wanting to, sorry for the must conversation to continue, at 572 saying, I'm just going to defer to Eric. Eric, what do you think that should say?
Well,
I would think that should say will, right?
it should say must or will,
Yeah.
because, again, you just open yourself up. Let's say.
If we're using rubric criteria, that's kind of like this is what we're using.
A smart responder is going to see this, is going to tailor their response, accordingly. I think it's only fair to them.
Right.
If you say may, then you might as well not say anything. You might as well go back to just leaving it open, and we'll decide on our own on the fly, but.
Yeah.
I agree. I thought our conversation tended towards the will.
I do like the way you've allocated the points.
I like the points too. I had just a quick question about cost. Is cost price something to?
Typically at the RFQ level, you're just looking for the qualifications.
Okay.
Kind of that next step in this process. Once we narrow it down to, hopefully we start with a big pool and we narrow it down to 3. That would be perfect in my estimation if we had 3. Then we ask them for a detailed proposal.
Okay.
And that's where it comes in with an expanded scope of work, a cost proposal associated with it, and that's where we can start breaking it apart.
Thanks for explaining that, yeah.
Yep, Paul.
If I might, that may be when the must and wills come in. I mean, if it's an RFQ, again, I'm not uncomfortable with leaving it at may if we get a pool of 3 that gives us the ideas we need in order to submit a formal, or craft a formal RFP.
Yeah, but this one has to be a must, because we're telling the evaluation committee that they have to use this.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it, I just, when I saw it, I didn't have a problem.
Right,
with
and
it, I'm telling you why.
yeah, the recollection of the conversation was, well, what if the evaluation team looks and says, this isn't what we want to use? We're saying this, that we want to use this and stuff. And what about, I'll throw something out, the evaluation committee plans to utilize the following criteria but that kind of leaves,
I tend to agree with Carla and Eric in this one. I think as far, this is the scale that we're gonna be utilizing.
Okay.
I just wanted to make one quick comment here. I thought I heard something, and I just wanted to go back over the way that this process typically works with an RFQ. We're asking people to meet these criteria to provide us with this information. The whole point of that, of course, is, and I think, I'm just repeating this for posterity's sake. The whole idea behind the RFP is to drive to and negotiate with a final candidate on a price who will do the work that we have identified.
RFP.
No,
RFQ, the purpose for the RFQ.
You said RFQ.
I apologize, oh my gosh. The purpose of the RFQ is to drive down to single out that entity that we choose then to negotiate with on price, on final scope of work, and it would be that entity from the RFQ that would then move forward with performing the actual work. We would end up executing a contract with that professional service provider for that work. So I just, for posterity, that's
Yep.
the gist of where we're headed.
And if I could add, this point value system ideally is going to give you the short list, and then you're going to go into interviews. And you don't necessarily have to pick the one that
The top
scored the
point.
highest
Right.
in the point value. You can, it's just really just to narrow the field. So that gives us the leeway, even with the must, that still gives us the leeway. I think, I'm used to sorting through, trying to get 12 down to 3 or 4. I'd be overjoyed if we got 12 here. That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it's such a niche kind of skill set right now that, again, if we get 3 to 5, I would be thrilled.
Yeah.
I have a question about a previous one we flew over. Can I go backwards?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the 170.
It went backwards, Jones. It went backwards for you.
That's how I'm working today, Austin, in reverse. Just 170. Am I the only one who just sort of read it and was kind of like, what? Like, are we really looking for these things, or did we just add it because we added it? I just want to make sure that,
Well, these were issues that were brought forward from the planning commission. And I don't know if Mark, during your conversations at PC or Dawn, if you have a recollection as to what the particulars were surrounding that, or maybe.
I just don't
Mike-
want to throw things in here that they're gonna trip over or give us random things that we're not looking for. It just, and I'm only asking because and maybe I'm the only one, but we all just sort of seemed like blank in the face and moved on.
Well, actually, one of them was mine.
Yeah, I was
Which
gonna say, we
was
Which one?
at
about the
council
legal
discussed-
one, because
Yes.
I mentioned that a zoning hearing board objection would look very different in form-based code than it would in the Euclidean code, right? So I think that would be relevant if they have experience in the legal ramifications of switching to a form-based code. I thought that one was important. Carl, I think you mentioned the brownfields and the environmentally challenging locations.
I think
Someone,
that's
someone
planning
at
commission.
council's,
I
Yeah, I
seem to
asked for
remember
further
that conversation.
clarification and what a definition of an environmentally challenging location.
And Brownfields came out
If,
of that.
and you might
Okay.
just put in there if relevant, right, or if any, or something. Consultants should indicate positive experience or skills, if any, with
I guess the one that really
following
stuck out
issues.
to me as big was demographic evaluations and projections.
And I think where planning commission, where they were at with this was forward thinking. Okay, when you put together a form-based code and it actually happens and comes to fruition, what are we doing out here? What's it going to do? Is it going to start pushing us to issues with utilities? Again, that was something that water,
Economic
sewer,
council.
those kind of question marks. I kind of view this section as honestly as value added. If
Bonus points?
if they have this, throw it in there. It's, you know, it'll
Okay,
help.
okay.
But I don't think these are required skills. It's just things that may be beneficial to the overall process.
So to that point, the addition of if any.
Well, it does say any of the following. I mean, it says it. I apologize for, I just kind of wanted to draw out the meeting one more time, and I appreciate you entertaining me about it.
It's what we do.
So it's like a job description where it says preferred skills, but not required.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, cool.
Yeah, again, value added is kind of how I view this.
Yep.
If they check the boxes on everything else, they're a really good qualified candidate. And if they have something else here, it's just icing on the cake.
A lot of this is gonna be determined based on the size of the firm that responds. Because a sizable firm is going to have some of these resources at their disposal more readily than others.
Right.
And frankly, some of these areas, if they do have it, when we get into cost negotiations, maybe the things that fall off first. Because, and I told this to Planning Commission when I did the presentation, is they were adding, and again, they were great comments, as they were adding things, I said, my only caution as you add things is the price goes up. So that's, you know, and it's a great point, Carla. It's a question of, you know, are they really important? Be nice to have, but not required, value added.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep, thank you.
I think that was it, right,
So I
Mike?
had in terms of revisions, if there was other
Anything-
things, I'm happy to take those.
Anything from the second, third, or fourth read of this that we're missing?
491, is a USB drive still the best format for the digital copy?
For us, probably, I mean, if they have can utilize a SharePoint or Dropbox, that's fine. It's just kind of an easy thing. I'm figuring when they hand deliver it, it can come right with it. That's my only rationale.
Are you
for it.
thinking IT security? Is that what you're thinking?
I mean, I wouldn't stick a USB drive in my
Yeah.
computer. It's just me
Yeah.
coming from my background.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Wouldn't we provide the USB and
Oh,
give that
okay.
to him so that it would be a new one?
There's just other
But,
ways,
yeah,
opportunity.
as soon as
Maybe
you
USB
take your
drive
USB and plug it into somebody else's equipment, then, yeah.
It's compromised.
Yeah, it's kind of understood. Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm happy to revise it, you know.
Or just give them the option. Of course,
Secure
I think
electronic
that's, yeah,
transmittal.
a secure electronic
Okay.
transmission.
I'll leave it open then.
Yeah, but nothing to be determined.
No, that's a good.
it's just a sign, that's just a carryover from probably 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, well, and it's been a while since I did one of these.
It doesn't look it.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, for you and Lindsay to decipher that, at least my meandering comments from, I thought was outstanding.
Again, I wanted to thank both council and PC. I thought your comments were spot on, and at the end of the day, I think it made it a better RFP.
Staff, do you need a formal motion or just consensus? Okay,
So moved.
Second,
which is what?
Move to advertise.
Yes. right.
Moved to advertise.
That
Authorize.
council authorize the advertisement and direct marketing of the RFQ beginning the week of June 6th. That is what was motioned, that is what was seconded.
Yeah.
Any further discussions? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We continue stepping forward. MB1, College Township Finance Report. Mr. Long.
Okay, Mike's going to bring up the report here, and we'll walk through this pretty quickly tonight. All right, next slide, Mike. Starting out with something new that council hasn't seen before, and I wanted to kind of like to do a little deeper dive from time to time on our finance reports to give you a little more information on what goes on behind the scenes in the finance department and what decisions that are made throughout the year. We have a number of different insurances to protect the assets of the township. The total premium we pay over the course of the year is $111,000. And I've indicated on the schedule here the different kinds of coverages we have and the annual premium for each line of coverage, and a couple little comments, and I'll just point out a couple here. Well, we have commercial property that covers our buildings and our assets. And the way they rate that is you provide them a detailed list of all your assets, traffic lights, buildings and structures, and park equipment, all that stuff. Anyhow, total value is $21 million is reported to the company. General liability provides coverage for third-party bodily harm and property damage claims. Crime covers employee theft. Inland marine, which is kind of is a very old term. Where that comes from is that when that line of coverage was originally created for companies, it was specifically for boating companies, ships and boating equipment. And of course, things change over time, and now for that line covers our contractors' equipment, our backhoes and that kind of thing. Auto, of course, is your registered vehicles and any equipment that travels over the road, and it has a license plate on it. Workers' compensation covers your work-related injuries, compensation medical. Umbrella coverage is another kind of funny term. That is simply a term that indicates that coverage is over and above the underlying liability coverages. Commercial general liability, workers' compensation, and on down the public officials liability coverage. The public officials and employment practices that covers wrongful acts by public officials, cyber risk, data breach, and other cybersecurity issues. Engineers' professional liability coverage, that covers our services, our township engineer who is shared with Harris Township. And if absent that agreement, we would not need that line of coverage. And then, of course, the treasurer's bond, that covers myself, and that is set at $2.75 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but that's set to cover the estimated maximum amount of funds that we have on hand at any time in our tax account. And that premium is really a total of $1,900, and we pay $500 of that, and the school district picks up the other $1,400. Okay, next slide. Yeah, as far as insurance and risk control, we have a number of things in place to help maintain and control risk, and put right at the top there, Certified Safety Committee, because they really kind of permeate the entire operation. That committee meets every month, and there's certain processes you go through. We actually get a 5% discount of our workers' compensation premium for that. And they also create policies and investigate accidents and that kind of. And there's also a system in place where if an employee recognizes that there's a a near miss, then they can report that to the committee, and the committee will follow through on what to do about that near miss. Fire protection, hydrants, alarms, and extinguishers, and we do regular maintenance of the structures and equipment. And then once a year we have evaluation update by an outside company, and they just give us updated numbers, and we forward that to the insurance agent. The agent looks at it, and then we make a decision whether or not we need to change any kind of coverage. We also meet quarterly with our insurance agency. A big thing with risk is having personnel policies and safety policies in the handbook and written job descriptions. They're all very important to maintain risk. And one of the most recent ones you're familiar with is we put in multi-factor authentication with our accessing the IT equipment here at the township. And then there's firewalls and other technology controls that have been put in by Hinton, which is our IT support firm. Then finally, we'll go through a couple of these a little later on, is that there's a multiple safety precautions with our bank accounts. All right, just real quick, as of April 30th, the fund balances we started end of the year with, and started this year with, total $3,035,000. The fund balances in total as of April 30th is $3,687,000. And the third column basically shows that the unassigned fund balance, which is really available for general use, is $603,000, and the difference being the amount that we have in capital reserve, which is designated. And all those other funds are really, the money is in those funds for specific purposes, and so they're not considered to be unassigned. Next slide. Last year, we showed you this as well. This is a listing of all our different bank accounts, what the general account purpose is, and the total, as you can see, is $5,022,300, which is a considerable amount of funds. The next slide we'll go through. We'll show you some of the controls we have to protect those funds, because that is a lot of money. We have a number of precautions in place. Positive pay, which is we send a file to the bank, and the bank compares checks that clear with that file to make sure that those checks are authorized. The next two, anytime money leaves the account through ACH, it's got to be it's flagged, and also then it requires a secondary review before it's released. So money can leave the account via ACH without these additional filters. We have dual signature required on checks, and they're handwritten. There's no stamps. We're all handwritten.
Yep.
So we see them all. The state provides a list of authorized investments. We have to stay within those investments. There's insurance through the FDIC covered up to $250,000 for each account, each financial institution. And then any money in the account over that, the bank or the financial institution is required to pledge collateral to protect the rest of that balance in that account. And we do monthly bank reconciliations, and we look at the transactions every day. There's the treasurer and finance bond, as you saw on the last schedule. And then we have the crime and cyber liability insurance policy. So there's a number of factors in play to protect the assets. Okay, this is a good time of the year to be looking at the property tax collections, 21 versus 22. We sent out a duplicate of $2.8 million, about the same each year. And this year, the collections are a bit ahead of the prior year. Last year, at this time, we had a balance to collect of 10%. And this year, we have a balance of 8.5%, $236,000. So collections and real estate taxes are very good. And it's a very important revenue and reliable revenue source for the township. Okay, we also like to go through non-property tax revenue highlights. I thought with the pandemic going on that I wanted to do a 3-year comparison, and you can just see our three major lines of tax in addition to real estate tax, the transfer tax, earned income and local services tax, and property transfer tax. That's just one of those taxes you just really don't have any control over. And that could change in a heartbeat. So at the end of the year is whenever the rubber hits the road and we see how we did year-to-year comparison. But the other taxes look pretty healthy. And we had a couple other notable revenues. We got a refund for our EIT collection costs, and that seems to be an annual thing because they take out 2.4% of our EIT, and then at the end of the year they reconcile the costs, and they either provide a billing notice or a refund. And every year the costs are lower than 2.4%, so we get a refund every year. We have been every year, I should say. Again, our participation in the cooperative, we expect to see about, and I think this is still accurate, I didn't get a confirmation from the insurance company or from Benecon, but we were looking at about $43,000 in refunds to come this year. Last year's surplus was $130,000, so that's down a little bit. In the budget, we had allocated $350,000 from the ARPA monies to be transferred to general fund for revenue replacement. That happened, so that's in there. And two major reimbursements came in, was the reimbursement from the county for the bridge repair, $78,000. And we also received the payments from the state for the recycling equipment, $279,000. And then the last item listed there was, we went through the 2022 debt issue, and there were $43,000 in closing costs, and that money was transferred from the bond issue to general fund to reimburse that. Okay, looking ahead, we got the interim financial presentations in September, December, and then later this month, we'll be taking a look at the capital improvement program. And then finally, the 2023 budget in the November, December timeframe. Just a couple things, and again, this is something we haven't put up here before, but a couple challenges I wanted to, I ran by Mike and Adam here today, and we just wanted to talk, or just indicate that inflation overall is a concern, and as is supply chain issues. And then finally, we have the all this information on our new township website, the budgets, capital improvement programs, audits, and lots of opportunities for public service.
Oh, it's even an embedded link. Wow.
Adam, anything to add? Or
Couple of things, yeah, I mean, we'll get into this a little bit more in the capital improvement plan, and this is probably a good opportunity to speak to that. Our intention this evening was to have provided you with the actual CIP books. We discovered a glitch. We're going to make those corrections. Electronically, we will have all that information
They're
to
there.
you.
we already have,
We got them.
right there, my friend.
Yeah, we're
we
gonna
collect
pull
them?
the books, we should probably
I thought you already pulled them.
Yeah, no.
Oh, this is the one Jackie gave me, that's not this?
Yes.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna take your books back.
Okay,
Okey dokey.
sorry.
Please thank Frank for the lovely picture.
Actually, this was probably a picture that Dawn took at some point.
Thanks,
All
Don.
the rusty
I
pipe.
love
yeah.
it. It's great.
I thought it was very artfully done.
I thought,
Yeah, well, I had
It's not
put,
subliminal.
my assistant was under a lot of pressure to get that done today here, and I didn't really take an opportunity to review it before it was put in the books and handed to you. I looked at it after the fact, noticed a couple issues, so I think it's best that you get a nice, clean, absolutely correct book without having to get replacements.
There's,
Sounds like
Absolutely.
a smart move.
there's really just a few minor
House to the left.
modifications that need to be made.
So I
We can
apologize.
So,
look at those, or-
once
we don't need to.
we make the electronic changes, those will be communicated to you directly as soon as those are done. Immediately thereafter, the books will be available. We'll either make arrangements to get them to you, or we will have them available here at the township building for you guys to collect. So, our apologies, stuff
Nope.
happens sometimes.
All good.
So, that will necessitate us to meet sometime, probably after next Monday and before our meeting on the 16th, to have a workshop on the CIP. So bear that in mind, and to that end, Jen will be sending out a doodle poll with some likely dates that will probably work, and others can be suggested. But part of what we're going to end up talking about, and part of what was referred to here tonight, are both the supply chain issues, which are impacting deliveries of vehicles that are on a replacement schedule, which is becoming a greater issue, and I anticipate that to do nothing but to increase over time here in the next few years. And of course, inflation. And where inflation is obviously having the biggest fight right now for us is in cost of fuel. Clearly, when we established the budget in November, roughly, was when it was essentially finalized out to public comment in November. We weren't dealing with $4.80 gas, and I don't think that we had anticipated that we would be dealing with $4.80 gas by any stretch of the imagination. So there are going to be, I would say, fairly significant impacts due to inflationary pressures. So that is something that we'll be dealing with throughout this course of this course of the year. What I meant to say is this budget year. And we'll get into some of those as well when we have a conversation about the CIP.
Okay. Questions for the manager or the treasurer?
I just want
Go ahead.
to say thanks to Mr. Long for pulling some of these different items out from your, bank and the vault. And helping us helping give us and the public an idea of some of the inner workings of the finances. It's important and you do a good job of it.
Thank you.
Right, towards that, just these generally quarterly updates and whatnot help us better roll into the budget, the CIP and the budget and everything. We're not getting hit with everything all at once. We have a standing, and then that helps us be efficient when you ask things of us. So, thank you. Okay. If nothing else, MB2, College Township Industrial Development Authority request for interim executive director services. Adam?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for some assistance from Paul on this as our College Township Industrial Development Authority liaison. First off, I want to apologize, there was not a cover memo attached to this. Essentially, we had discussed, and there was a consensus of council at our last meeting, based on a request that came forward from the IDA about the extension of my services as an interim executive director. And the consensus of council was that that would be appropriate. We had a little bit of conversation back and forth, Paul and I think Rich is the chair, about how maybe to structure some kind of an agreement. This is the result of those conversations. This is essentially a draft type of a document, kind of a letter agreement, memorandum of understanding, if you will, and it sets forth some of the terms and conditions that we thought would be important to capture here. I also included, in addition to that draft agreement, an accounting of the amount of time the amount of hours that have gone into this endeavor since we first got started with this back in February. Officially, I didn't become the interim until the beginning of March, or in March, but the hours actually kind of accumulated before that to get to that point. So, to this point, there's a little over 100 hours that have been invested in assisting the IDA. The recommendation within the proposed draft agreement is that they be billed at the manager's current hourly rate for 20 hours every month. I'm hoping over time that we get down to the 20 hours a month. It has begun to regress a bit, but there's a good bit of work there, just in terms of the administrative support that's necessary to keep things running and going in the right direction. So that's really all the more of an introduction that I had to the topic, and I don't know, Paul, if there's any additional comments that you may wish to add.
No, I think you captured it well. Based on the conversation we had last time, there is an appreciation of the value that Adam is bringing to righting the ship, as it were, with the IDA and establishing some processes. My only, concern, and I may be jumping the gun a little bit here, is I want to make sure that we're fairly accounting for the hours that are there. And I don't know in particular if this draft agreement actually does that. I think it lowballs at 20 hours a month. I think that needs to be made clear. And I do like the sort of gating that it's not necessarily through the end of the year, it's through the end of September essentially, on an almost quarterly renewable basis, because we want to see that there's a continuing incremental improvement in process through this, that this doesn't become an albatross as it were, for Adam's time or staff's time. So that's, sort of leaning into the comment period, but I'd be very interested in hearing what other members of council think. I think this is, from the standpoint of the liaison, I think this is a high-value thing, both for the IDA and for the township, if we can manage this properly.
Okay, let's finish up on this side.
I have 3 comments. First of all, I echo what Paul said about the revisiting this thing in September. And then that leads into the second comment, which would be down there towards the end of the first page. Second bullet item under now therefore it be known. First sub-bullet, based on a positive progress in the establishment and adherence to operational procedures put in place. Is it understood that we're going to come into full compliance with the Pennsylvania sunshine laws separate from this, or does that need to be called out in this agreement? I would hope that we're making progress in that area separate from this, but if not, is this the opportunity to put the IDA on notice that,
I would be reluctant to call it out in
yeah,
this.
and I would too. I use that as an opportunity just to bring that up and make sure it's still,
Again, and just for general knowledge, their meetings are advertised, they are open to the public. They conduct the meeting, they're advertised, all the things that need to be done. They are conforming in large part to Sunshine Act requirements. That part of it is not an issue. There are some subtleties and some peculiarities with respect to the IDA in terms of the type of business that they are conducting. Okay, where they are talking about clients, they're talking about clients' finances, they're doing different things. And there needs to be a little tightening up of the way that business is conducted in, say, an executive session versus in an open session, but they have not been problematic to this point in time. It is something that I think is more of a tightening it up, cleaning it up a little bit, but it is not a fundamental flaw in any of the operations.
okay.
So,
And I probably was a little harsh there, but obviously there's now a recognition that those policies and procedures apply to them, which I'm not sure was there before.
I think we're getting better.
Yeah, I was just going to comment, the last couple of meetings, it has been much more clear when we're entering into or coming out of executive session.
Okay.
Because that does have to be there to protect the confidentiality, the business practices that are there. So my sense is it's not a huge problem either.
Okay. My last comment is the highlighted hourly rate is a placeholder.
I was gonna say, or the current, we could modify
That
it, or
was,
the
that was
current.
why it was highlighted.
Okay.
Okay, Carla?
That's a lot of time. Like, shockingly a lot of time, and that's our township man. I'm just gonna come out and say, I don't love the arrangement. Of all of the numerous things going on in our township, the IDA is taking easily, I mean, just in this minimum of 20 hours, easily half a week, a month. And it's not 1/8 of the business that goes on here. So, not that you only work 40 hours a week, but I just don't love the idea of this extending on and on and on. And I'm just gonna make that comment now so that when I make it later, I have already said it once.
If I might, I think that's where the gating also comes in here, and I think this is also, in a sense, a forcing mechanism for them to understand and clarify what they need in an executive director position, because I think they're, having come into it at the point where they had just lost an executive director, there was some disagreement among members of the board about what exactly they needed. I think once they see how an executive director can facilitate the business that they do, they may decide to go ahead and, you know, hire their own person to do this. I think they see this as an interim solution as well, hopefully more interim than not.
I think that's the hopeful look. I just want to make it, like I said, over months and months, things get comfortable and you get used to something, and I'm just saying out loud, don't get used to it.
So far, it hasn't been very comfortable.
Yes, yes, and to that point, I think our intent was that Adam, Paul, and I were gonna meet with the IDA's leadership and have some candid discussions. That, you know, we need to keep seeing it moving forward, not stepping backwards.
Yeah, got it.
And
Right.
and, you know, and we don't, and that we don't want this to go. Now, if they get it down to 5 hours, it takes 5 hours to manage it, we might still do it. But at the current, no, I can't see it being continued.
And if I might, just to refer back to the conversation or the report that I gave the last time we met, they are working on an established procedure for current clients, new clients, conducting business. Hopefully that's going to the same thing gets touched many more times than it has to at the moment. If the plan works in place, it hopefully will streamline all of that and clarify who needs to do what when.
Great.
Adam, if you want to elaborate, but.
No, I mean, the workflow process that's been discussed in a number of different committees, it was adopted at the last meeting of the IDA. I think that there will be some growing pains in terms of the implementation of the workflow process. I think we're already seeing that even yet this month with some things that are occurring. But the point is that they have some established procedures. The biggest issue from my perspective is that they have had a committee structure, but the committee structure was not functioning,
Yeah, it was not synergistic whatsoever.
It wasn't meeting, there was no conveyance of decisions or recommendations and things like that, and as a result, it led to quite a bit of stalemating.
Right, and if I might, not understanding what is the thing we have to address now and what's the next step.
Right.
And I think just clarifying what is the next step in this process will hopefully streamline things.
Carla, anything else?
Nothing else, thank
Okay,
you.
Dustin?
I mean, just considering the time, is current hourly wage rate, I mean, is that fair, or should we be asking for a premium upon this? Or should we be saying, after a certain point in time, at month 3 or month 6, or, I mean, I know it's it's tailored to September, you'll be charged a premium now for the service.
Kind of like the police, this is the base and we go over that, it's at this rate. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's, I mean, it's as a consideration.
I mean, it could be structured. First off, this is not an all-in cost for my time. I mean, this does not calculate any benefit cost, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a straight time issue, as represented here. I think council's decision is that, I mean, this can be structured as is, which is at least on its surface a fair approach. Or it could be structured in a certain way to become a disincentive for the continuation of the services. And I think that you have a great deal of latitude in terms of how you might approach that.
Just a thought.
Yes.
Back to that, maybe building in that should this go beyond another 3 months, that rate could and very will likely go up. beyond that point, like time and a half or whatever it happens to be as a disincentive, but also as a positive incentive to streamline the process.
Right. That's why I was kind of looking at, okay, if we're saying 20, if it goes over 30, it's at
Right.
a
If
premium
it's
rate.
between a minimum of 20, maximum of 30, and if it goes over 30, it becomes 1.5x or something.
Not a minimum of 20. If it's less than 20, great, right? I mean, why a
Yeah, but I
minimum
think
of
for the
20?
next, so that
It
they're
isn't
able
gonna be less.
Well, for billing purposes.
for billing purposes, yeah.
We, just so, we bill them already for hourly rates for myself and for finance staff and for Jen's time. And they pay, we track our time on our time sheets, we do. And then we do a calculation, we calculate a bill, and that's how we do it. And I think, I can't remember exactly how I did it, but I know it's our hourly rate times like a 1.4 factor or something like that, because we wanted to capture.
Taxes and benefits. and all
Right,
that.
right. So, nothing scientific, it's just, and we presented that to them back then for those services, not Adam's services, for our financial and administrative services.
Well, from a
And that
consistency
was, and that
standpoint,
worked for
too.
them.
If I might too, just one more comment, and this echoes what I said last time. They understand the value of this, they don't expect it to be free, and my concern was let's cover our real costs of this, so whatever that happens to be, set aside the disincentives or incentives, just let's cover our real costs on this.
It's hard to put numbers to some of those real costs, because some of them are opportunity costs
Yeah,
and everything. So that's where I think the disincentive comes in. Everything, so. Are you thinking,
Well, I mean, from a from a consistency standpoint, and I had forgotten that, but you're right, your hourly wages, and then we're doing the factor, the 1.4, which is capturing everything else. I mean, I think perhaps at a minimum, that's what it should be. I kind of like the concept personally of, we're going into this shooting for 20. You get as many as 30, but after 30, now there's a kicker. Even beyond.
help me help you,
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
So, I mean, and I think that is then at your discretion in terms of what that kicker would be, or that
The
addition.
premium.
That premium, yes, I'm sorry.
Thoughts?
Right.
Support?
I didn't catch all the conversation, but I'm surprised .4 covers your fully allocated costs. I'm guessing it doesn't. That was just a convenient number.
That's going from my memory, I'm not sure exactly if that's, but that sounds like the
We're
number.
doing pretty good then with,
It's in the ballpark.
okay. I would be hesitant, I heard, the discussion about incentive. I don't know that I'd want to play that card yet. So I'm a little hesitant to support the idea of tacking on a premium on top of that over 30 hours. Because I think the idea is to help them get going, and if we have to invest a few more hours up front so that they can get their feet underneath them and take it off, I don't necessarily want to.
Yeah, we can
Well,
help them get going
it's
for
all
6
subject to
months,
the guy
haven't we?
keeping track of his time.
Free?
When are we reviewing? Is it December or September?
September.
So maybe that's something, I mean, what do you think about seriously considering adding that come
I
September?
would much rather revisit that option in September, seeing the progress, the general mood, the relationship. I think, it hasn't been said yet, but Adam, Rich, Paul, and before that Anthony, were put in a bit of an awkward situation. I think you said uncomfortable.
There's been some uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you guys have done, given the circumstances, is remarkable, that we're at where we are right now.
Just a suggestion, instead of doing the 20, 30, whatever like that, how about we bump the 25 as the base for the whole thing?
Yeah, and revisit anything
In
beyond the
September.
1.4 in September. That would be, I like that idea if you're asking.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, I didn't understand what you said.
So Adam wrote this with a base of 20 hours. I'm saying make it a base of 25 hours
Until September.
until September.
Okay, okay.
And then
I thought
we
you meant
revisit.
bumping it up
And
in
if I
September.
might
couldn't-
add the multiplier, the
The
1.4.
multiple, yeah, definitely, I think we're all clear
I
on
think
that one.
that's, and I would put the caveat of what the manager's current salary, because if that changes, we don't wanna have to revisit the agreement. Or
Well,
the
it does
then current
say-
salary.
I mean, it talks about
Yeah, just take the number out of it.
determine
Just put
terms and
currently hourly
conditions of
rate.
such an extension, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't, that's specifically about December, not September, so that's the part that,
Yeah, obviously, this needs some rework based on
Okay.
the comments here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Great.
is there support? I think you just need consensus on this, or do you need formal?
If you're comfortable that I, in concert with Paul as the liaison and/or you as a chair or others, I'll rewrite this, I'll send it back out to everyone. And if everyone's comfortable with this, this could be presented to the appropriate committees at the IDA and move
Right.
through the process.
Because the current agreement expires,
Well, in
End
the end
of
of June.
End
So
of June.
they meet in 2 weeks.
right. So that's the only thing. I think we're gelled enough on it that if council would
Yeah.
authorize us, we'll,
They
we
meet,
can bring it home.
they meet
The
again
committees-
before, the day before our next meeting, so.
And the committees meet next week.
And, yeah, our
So
committees meet.
their
next week.
committees have.
They're-
So I think I'm hearing that we're on the right track. We're willing to be a bit patient, but that has a limit.
And if I might, if we didn't do that, it would kind of negate all of the investment we've made over the last 3 months. I mean, if, it would be different if we didn't see any progress over the last
Right.
2.5 months, but I think we have.
We have, again, I think we've probably had 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Sure.
Being generous, but, we just need to convey that message.
Yeah, and again, from my perspective, the issues are truly not insurmountable.
But they have to be embraced.
That's the thing, they need, I'm hoping to be able to find some small wins, because that is what I think will flip the trigger for everyone. If they are able to follow the process, they're able to use the committees, follow the process, get things to the full board, and on some little things, I think they're gonna see the value in that process, to coin a phrase that I've heard Eric use once or twice. But it's very true in this particular case. This is all about the process of how they reach a decision and consensus on a fairly, a sizable committee.
great.
Okay, all right. Adam, you got enough to move
I
forward?
do, thank you.
Okay. All right, our added item, MB3, which is Mountain Indian Conservancy and our parks.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dustin.
So I don't know if we had this to put up on the screen, but I did send a letter out this afternoon, but I can go through it if we don't. So yeah, this agenda item is a park item, specifically Stony Batter, which is our College Township owned property on Mount Nittany. And, we're way ahead in our cooperative efforts. So bottom line up front, I'm requesting feedback and support, and to see what the rest of the council thinks about, utilizing our staff resources to both assess the feasibility and if we do believe it's feasible to execute upon a cooperation agreement similar to that we are starting to enter into with Thompson Woods with State College Borough, with entities such as the Mount Nittany Conservancy and any other possible entities. There has been, even a talk of the Hanson Quarry as well in that area. And basically, to really up our game, if you will, in, conservation, preservation, management of that parkland and open space. My letter goes into in more detail, yesterday I had and I organized this, I had the opportunity to take a hike on what is Stony Batter. Stony Batter is approximately 30 acres, consists of 2 sections. We have the section that really is the gateway, if you will, to Mount Nittany. Everybody that hikes Mount Nittany, either the blue or white trail, crosses Stony Batter. It is the trailhead. The other section, which probably is about 3 acres out of that 30, is the old shale pit, the old waterworks, facilities for the Lamont Water Association, and what we're currently using as a staging area for Public Works. And we have dedicated some parking, which we did last year, to Stony Batter. So the gist of it is, if we look at some things that have happened just in our own backyard, we entered it and we started looking at Thompson Woods. We're managing that, and I think that's a good path forward with Thompson Woods. I think Mount Nittany is even ever more important, right? If we look at our township visions and goals, we want to be the gateway. We want to be the gateway to the center region. Well, we have more visitors come to Mount Nittany and Stony Batter than probably any other parkland. And a lot of these are folks that are out of state, that they might come there once. And, I think we owe it to ourselves to get better and leave a good impression. That's really the gist of it. And my letter does go in, I have some things at the bottom that talk about what Stony Batter is, what we have done in the past, and what we can do and opportunities that could be pursued. My thought, when I started looking through what was written up for Thompson Woods, a governance committee, governance similar to something like that, I think could really forge ahead some long-term actions and really could pull resources between us and Conservancy at minimum. I floated this by, on my hike, Eric Loop, who is the president right now of their board, and Mr. Lee, we'll call him Leon, I don't want to butcher his last name. I floated this by them. They do want to bring it to their board to see what their thoughts are. Obviously, this is just an ask for us to continue this ball rolling and put some staff resources to it. Stephen Spoonamore, we know, is our park rep for Stony Batter, and he's very receptive to of giving his services, and I think the whole Parks and Rec committee would be as well. So that's my
Okay.
spiel.
Adam, did you get a chance to digest any of this? And it came in late today.
I had the opportunity to read the cover. I didn't get into the full amount, or all of the detail that you provided. But, my initial thought is that, Parks and Rec needs to weigh in, in terms of concept. But, in my mind, going forward, I don't see why there couldn't be some type of a similar arrangement with or about Mount Nittany, Stony Batter, as what we have been contemplating with Thompson Woods. I think that's certainly feasible. How long it takes us to get there, whatever the hurdles may be, those are things that I've not had an opportunity to really contemplate at this point.
Well, it's even better because you're not hamstrung by existing agreements, legal documents, and everything like that.
Well, that's true too.
You're able to potentially build it correctly from the start and everything. So, just a thought. Comments around the table? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the way that I read this, and I don't know if this was your vision, but back to the Thompson Woods thing, we talked about 2 different committees there. One was the governance committee, which was a necessity of the fact that there are shared boundaries and shared jurisdictions, like that, right? That wouldn't be here in this case. But the other was the advisory council idea. And I do think that an advisory council for Stony Batter, whether that includes, DCNR or, whoever, the Conservancy, anybody who might be interested, being then an advisory committee to Parks and Rec, which is our established way for them to then bubble up to council. That to me makes great sense in terms of it being, but I don't think the governance issue is different because it's our park. right? If I'm not mistaken, there would be no governance.
Well, Stony Batter is College Township.
Right, that's
And-
what I
and
meant.
the
Conservancy property.
Conservancy land is conservancies.
Right, and that's the unusual marriage here, right? I mean,
Oh, okay, all right. So we're
we
talking
have-
about doing both.
you have two different entities that are controlling entities of their own parcels.
Yeah.
And, yeah, even though Mount Nittany is in College Township, by far the largest acreage of Mount Nittany is controlled by the Conservancy.
Yeah, and, well, my perspective came from, in coming at that shared agreement, and I hear you out exactly, is because, Mount Nittany is dependent on one and the other, right? They can't have folks enter onto Mount Nittany Conservancy property without touching Stony Batter. They can't have people park to access it without coming to Stony Batter. We don't have people coming to Stony Batter just to see Stony Batter. We have people coming to Stony Batter to hike Mount Nittany. So, that
No, that
mutual
makes sense.
relationship exists already. Other things to consider, right, path ahead, right, that governance, however it shakes out, I just think we need to explore it, that's all I'm suggesting.
Eric?
Wholeheartedly support the idea of exploring it. I'm happy to see that Dustin, someone took the lead and using the Thompson Woods experience as a starting point sounds great. I would offer that there will be other factors at play here will make this easier than Thompson Woods.
Yes.
And the last thing I would say is, I love this idea. I think I want to move forward. I think Spring Creek might have more visitors annually than Stony Batter. Just nitpicking here. But that doesn't change at all the importance of moving forward. And we were kind of coming at it from an access standpoint. This approach has taken a much broader approach that we would need to take anyways, probably, to have a really useful solution to access, because we probably weren't going to do it on our own. So this seems to check all those boxes.
Yeah, one thing, Eric, I just want to add to that I thought of that I didn't really get into my letter, right? I think most folks are aware that one of the objectives of the Conservancy is to essentially buy up more property down to at a certain elevation level. A partnership could probably even further spur something like that, right, and preserve more land, right? That's just one thing just to add into that.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing something. I think this is the best opportunity, the best suggestion that I've heard so far. At least it has the highest ceiling from anything else we've been talking about.
Right.
Potentially.
Yeah, the Conservancy potentially has the Clearwater role in various other projects. So, because they could bring that public-private partnership kind of thing to bear, so. Carla, I think?
No, I didn't have a great opportunity to look at this email, so I have nothing to comment on it.
Okay. When does our parks meet next?
The 13th.
But they're doing their road tour, so they're not.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
not conducive, yeah.
It's not really a business meeting per se, it's the road show coverage.
Gotcha.
Every June.
How about, you obviously know the chair of the parks.
Yeah.
To pitch it, get some feedback, and then maybe we talk a little more at the 16th?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I can share it with Steve and bring up, what I've written up. I've been in contact with him, told him I was gonna bring it up.
Sure.
At our meeting, so if everyone in council's receptive to it, then we can, have Parks and Rec, weigh in on it and go from there.
Yeah, so is Judy's the chair still, or
Jude now, isn't,
Judy.
Judy Sidler?
Judy Sittler?
Yeah,
is Judy Sidler still the
I
chair?
think she is.
yeah, yeah, so I'd fling it her way and then,
Jude didn't want it.
Oh.
Jude was in line.
Okay.
She chose not.
okay. But yeah, just, involve Parks Chair and get some initial feedback, and then that'll also give staff a little bit of opportunity to maybe delve into it a bit more.
Yeah, I think it would be important, we have bits and pieces of some of the history and some of the evolution of things that have gone on up there, and I think that it would give us an opportunity to pull that together. I don't know that between now and the 16th, that I'll have the opportunity to do that, but for the meeting in July, I would anticipate being able to come back with, maybe we could have it on the agenda in
Sure,
July.
sure,
and maybe
absolutely.
By then, there's some
Absolutely.
additional.
Yeah, and I think that would give I don't know when the Conservancy's
Yeah,
next meeting
right,
is.
Conservancy's gotta have
Let them
discussions.
float this out
Our
with
parks
their
have to have
board.
discussions, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think that's
Yeah,
fair.
but, you know,
That's
keep the
fair.
ball rolling.
But this is a great base document to work it from.
You know,
I think.
and minimally, you could think about it, right, this isn't gonna be work for naught. If the Conservancy decides they don't wanna play ball, perhaps, we can unilaterally have an advisory committee or something going on, and just to address things that the Parks and Rec doesn't, having been there, having the experience, doesn't really consider, or perhaps, where I struggled was having the teeth to make something happen. And, it was evident to me as we were walking around, and we stayed on Stony Batter, but nobody knows the exact property lines. We should probably just have a survey done. Everybody, yeah, it's kind of.
Amy pulled a lot of that together recently, did she not? The property lines and all of that.
Off of
First on that.
GIS,
Yeah,
yeah.
from
I mean,
Jen.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's off some of the county mapping that we have, and that is not exact. And, one of the things that we have done with a lot of our parks is we do the corner posts.
Yeah.
And that, in theory, that could be something that if we have the survey completed, we could, that is a very low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
in
but,
terms of
these are,
doing
yeah.
some things.
Yeah, and I think the benefit with something like this is it really gets those things that would never be attainable without some structure and cooperation, perhaps, like getting Hanson on board. And I'll just put it out there, you think about it, that would be a great access to that mountain. And that is one of the goals that Eric Loop, that had, expressed to us, is that they've consistently been, for years, considering, how can we access this property besides coming up, Mount Nittany Road.
Hanson should always be looking for good publicity opportunities.
Oh, just note, they don't actively mine that part that is above Old Bullsburg Road any longer.
Right. Okay, so there's some work here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea as far as, initiating the exploration. I think we can do that. We'll come back in July with, some bits and pieces, and we'll have the discussion again.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? If not, staff informatives, is there anything in there that staff wants us to be informed upon?
No.
Thank you. Council staff, other matters? Eric?
Looking ahead to July, second meeting in July, I will not be able to attend, and I will not be in a position to participate remotely either.
Okay.
The second thing is, are we wrapping up in time that we can all commit to sticking around for an exec session? We did kind of ballpark set it at 9:30.
Well, one guy said 9, one guy said 9:30, yeah.
That's why I said 9/9:30.
Well, that guy added a new business item too, that one guy said that.
We probably would have,
So I might concede.
9:15, that's where we're at, okay.
Yeah, I would,
You good? You're
Well,
good? Good. Still with us?
yeah.
Carl?
Yep.
Still with us? Okay, yeah, so yes. So immediately after this,
yeah,
council will down to the library.
okay.
That'll let staff close up, CNET close up, everything like that, so. Okay, any other matters, other matters?
Quickly,
Yes.
I'd be remiss, I also, again, this afternoon sent out, on our walk, we noticed that there was a spotted lanternfly trap set up on a tree of heaven at our lot at Stony Batter. And I did send that information to Adam and to all of you, and I believe you were checking into it, just to understand where that had come from, so.
At the moment, it appears that it's from the Department of Ag. And at the moment, we're not aware that we were made aware.
You have been violated.
And we are, and I'm checking still, there's still a couple members of staff that I have to hear from yet. see if anybody had touched base.
Okay, any other matters? If not, just for the viewing audience, council will be adjourning out of our regular meeting and having an exec meeting regarding a personnel matter that will be announced at our next meeting as well. But just since we're here
At
talking
this
about it,
meeting.
since we're here talking about going to another meeting, I just wanted to put that out there.
That's where we'll
why.
be meeting.
That's why and where and all that good stuff. So if nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have motion, I will second. We are adjourned. Thank you all.